I used to always be focused on finding every single way I could raise my vibration or like make a better decision somewhere in my life so that my vibration was going to be higher. And whenever I would make a decision that would make my vibration lower, in my opinion, then I would get really down on myself and I would feel like I'm not doing good enough and I'm falling off my path and that someone else out there would have done the higher vibrational thing and they're more worthy than I am. And this type of mindset is ironically a really low vibrational mindset. My cat is at the window, but the door is wide open, so she needs to just walk towards the door. So it's kind of this age old debate. Should you focus more on being your most authentic self and expressing how you feel about things as they come up? Or should you focus on being your higher vibrational, higher self, the more positive version of yourself? Coming from a person who has tried both extremes, I would say that each side has its own pros and cons. And a lot of people that are on one side ignore the pros of the other side. But I will say that there is something to say about being your fully authentic, raw, honest self, even if it's hurtful, painful, annoying, out of alignment, whatever it is, toxic, you know. And there's also something to say about trying your best to choose things that are really positive and trying to be the maxed out positive version of yourself. My first journey into spirituality and into self-improvement was trying to be perfect. So I wanted to be vibrationally perfect. I wanted my diet to be perfect. I wanted the things I said to be perfect. I wanted to never, ever say anything that was a lie. I wanted to never, ever go against myself in my actions and have a bad habit. And I got stuck in this cycle of basically trying to be perfect. So my whole life was just me waking up and trying to be perfect until I went to sleep. And although it did have certain benefits, it got me into a really healthy place physically. It got me into a very devoted place mentally. And it definitely tapped my vibration into really high levels in certain ways. But it's not a human way to live. It's such a robotic way to live, trying to find the best possible solution and take the best possible solution every single time. Humans are much more complex beings, and we operate on deeper levels of natural intuition as well, where we sometimes are not going to make the exact right decision. Like, for example, sometimes now I'll go get McDonald's, even though in my old perspective, that would have been one of the worst things that I could have done. But now I feel like there is something about how it fits into the puzzle of my life where it actually enhances my life to have McDonald's every once in a while, even though there's no aspect of that that you could really look at and say is high vibrational. So at some point, I reached a dead end where I would constantly be perfecting my life, but I would still be feeling empty. And then eventually everything would fall apart, something bad would occur, and I would resort back to old coping mechanisms and fall back into pretty much a similar place that I was before. My next phase was realizing that my authentic emotions are meaningful and powerful. And if I sit with my truth and my emotions as they come up, then I can be a lot more impactful and influential in certain ways. Because when you're constantly moving by the wind of trying to be perfect and trying to be high vibrational, then you're less moving from your authentic energy and you're more so moving from a mental principle of trying to be perfect. So you have less aura, you have less energy behind what you're doing, so to speak, because it's only coming from this upper energetic place. It's not really emanating from your entire body and your true emotions. So when I started to really embody my true self, it was really interesting because one thing that starts to happen is people react very weirdly to people that are not trying to put on a certain face. They actually get startled, especially if they themselves are very used to putting on a mask and smiling when they're not happy, saying really polite things when they don't mean them, faking their mood, faking their energy. when it's different than it actually is, then when someone actually just owns how they are feeling and can kind of sense how the other person's actually feeling, then it can make people very uncomfortable. The problem with this is sometimes you get into negative loops where you identify as this kind of Eeyore type character because so many times you are the only person that's willing to voice their negative opinions. So you get pinned the tail on the donkey, so to speak, with this identity as someone who's more negative, even though you're just being more real, so to speak. So there's also negatives of being this full, authentic, emotional version of yourself. If you're being completely fake, then it's not actually helping you be more positive. You're just appearing more positive. And the goal is to actually be more positive, not to seem more positive. So what I would recommend is push yourself to be positive to the extent that it actually feels authentic and good, like you're almost lighting a fire within yourself. But when it gets to the point where you're hitting the gas and nothing is happening, but you're still faking the smile and it's almost tearing your guts apart on the inside, that's a sign that you should stop. And for people that tend to be more on the authentic side, where they only will be joyful if it's bursting out of their energy, and they will usually be more on the neutral or even negative side because that's how they tend to feel, I encourage you to step out of your comfort zone a little bit more and be willing to try to be positive sometimes. Well, maybe you feel kind of nebulous and you're not sure how you feel. I want you to take that opportunity to choose that you're going to feel positive then. Because there's oftentimes where we feel neutral or we don't know how we feel. Maybe we even feel a positive energy, but we're just not used to it. And our mind instantly labels the unknown as negative. So for people that are in the phase of being really authentic to themselves, I want you to try to assume the positive. You don't have to fake positivity, but when you're not sure how you feel, try your best to actually just assume that you're feeling kind of positive and just see how that works. Because, sometimes positivity also feels uncomfortable, especially if it's not common for you. So spirituality is not about maxing out your vibration and doing everything perfect. It's about finding a balance that's really sustainable in your life where you feel like you're showing up as your genuine self. Thanks so much for watching. If you want more mentorship like this, I have a free mentorship group called Elders Circle of Wisdom LITE. There's also a full version that's paid, but in the LITE version, you still get access to some Zoom calls where you go on with real professional mentors who will help you with your personal issues. So you can find that in the description. Thanks so much for watching. It was a pleasure, and I'll see you next time.